What's up, Eagles fans? It's your boys, E-Rock and Gale, here with a very special 4th and Jawn webcast edition of the playoff bye week. Now, it is not, of course, our inaugural playoff episode. That'll happen on January 9th, broadcasting live from Bucks County Baseball Company in Bristol, Pennsylvania. That's a vintage Philadelphia sports apparel store. We're going to be doing it live, so we hope you join us while we do our inaugural playoff show. It is going to be awesome. Do not miss it. But we wanted to give you a little appetizer, right? A little teaser into the playoffs. So, Gail, now that the playoff picture is in focus, we know who's in, who's out. Thank God Seattle's not in. But we are looking at the entire NFC South as potential opponents for the Philadelphia Eagles. You're talking about the New Orleans Saints. You talk about the Carolina Panthers, and of course the Atlanta Falcons bringing up that last seed. Big question is right now, who would you rather see in the playoffs in the divisional round?
If I'm going to be honest, as Eagle fans, we have nothing to worry about. If you looked at the TL, you have nothing to worry about, Eagle fans out there. But obviously, for me, I want to see the Carolina Panthers first. If we see the Carolina Panthers, that would basically knock out the Saints. Cam Newton hasn't looked hot as of late. Against the Eagles, we've done a pretty good job against them. Add that 20-degree weather, I think it could get pretty ugly for them. Their passing attack isn't that amazing. They have Devin Funchess, so I'd like to see Carolina, if any team, first.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, as far as matchups go, I can't help but look at a team like the Atlanta Falcons, right? Their defense is not as good as, let's say, the Carolina Panthers or the New Orleans Saints. Somewhat of a running game, but if you're able to make Matt Ryan one-dimensional, we saw exactly what happened last year when the Eagles, not as good of an Eagles team as they are right now, but we saw exactly what happened when you make Matt Ryan one-dimensional and kind of shut down Julio Jones. That whole offense kind of comes to a crawl.
Right.
And their defense is a little suspect. Being a pure dome team, a pure warm weather dome team, I don't know how they're going to fare at Lincoln Financial Field. When I was thinking about the running game, rather, I was kind of agreeing with your point, though. The Carolina Panthers would be number 2 on my list because simply they can't run the ball.
Right.
They're going up against the number 1 rushing defense in the Philadelphia Eagles. That would be an incredible challenge for Cam Newton in that offense. Although their defense, they can still get the job done.
They can play some defense. But like if we're going to go toe to toe in a team that's like, if we shut down the run game, we can shut down their passing game as well, I believe. So I think we got a good shot. I think, like you said about the Atlanta Falcons, they're coming from a nice fancy ass dome. If you guys haven't seen their dome, it's like brand new, fresh. It's like it's the perfect playing atmosphere for them. So I think coming into this cold, and the last 2 quarterbacks that have played, if we were going to pick a quarterback, Derek Carr.
Derek Carr. Yep.
If you look at Derek Carr, he had a terrible game in the cold, worse than Nick Foles. If you look at Dak Prescott, he was up against our third stringers. Our first string played about 19 snaps. He looked pretty bad in the cold. So I believe Matty Ice will be iced at Lincoln Financial Field in that 20-degree weather.
Absolutely. So I think you and I are both on the same page, hoping that it's one of the wild card seeds that knock off either the Rams or the New Orleans Saints. Because further down the road, that would certainly help out. But all likelihood, it's going to come down to the Saints once again traveling from the Bayou up to cold South Philadelphia. And while we want to use the cold as an advantage, I can't help but remember the last time we saw the Saints in the playoffs. In fact, it was our last playoff appearance. And the cold, even with Nick Foles and the same quarterback in the same stadium, the result was not exactly what we wanted. So what worries you about this New Orleans Saints team?
They don't have Darren Sproles. But they do have 2 good running backs in Ingram and Kamara. I think the thing that you liked about Kamara is the screen game could get little ugly if they have to go. They're just the most well-rounded squad I think out of the teams that we might play. They have a veteran quarterback in Drew Brees with a quick release. He's accurate, but he doesn't have the strongest arm. So if that wind gusts are blowing, that could help us. But I think we could do a great job against the run, inside and outside. But when you add that element of Kamara and the jet sweeps and the whole screen game, that could be a little tricky, especially with guys like Kendricks trying to cover Kamara. But their
Mm-hmm.
defense, they lost Kenny Vaccaro, one of their star safeties. They do have a great corner, Marshawn Lattimore, rookie. He's done a phenomenal job. But I think that cold weather, it could be something. And we saw what they did when the last time they were at the link. That interior pressure. The thing about Drew Brees is you got to get him off that mark. If you get Drew Brees off that mark on the interior, I mean Fletcher Cox and Jernigan have to show up.
Yeah. And we keep talking about the defense. Early on in this conversation, I'm noticing there's a common theme. And how does the Philadelphia Eagles shut down a Cam Newton or Matt Ryan in that passing attack, or the running backs and Kamara and Drew Brees and stuff like that? But we do have to bite the bullet and talk a little bit about the offense, as painful as it has been to watch over the last couple weeks. So if you take a look at the Falcons defense and the Panthers defense and the Saints defense, the Eagles have struggled to move the ball over the last 2 weeks. Not so much against the New York Giants, but over the last 2 weeks against the Dallas Cowboys and the Oakland Raiders, they're on the struggle bus right now. What defense do you think the Eagles' offense matches up better against?
That's a tough question. I probably say the Falcons.
Yeah.
Well, I mean the Saints are playing good defense. I mean okay defense. They did lose to the Bucks the last game. The Saints have lost 3 games since Thanksgiving.
Mm.
The Falcons have been a little wishy-washy.
Streaky.
Yeah. So, but then like I said, that the whole cold element really does throw. It's gonna throw a kink into everyone's game. So, but I mean, Nick Foles has been. Oof, oof.
Nicky's been rough, and that's putting it lightly. Now, Doug Peterson had his press conference today, and speaking of the cold, he has the boys practicing out there at Lincoln Financial Field, getting used to the cold. And apparently, the players all came, or at least the leadership council came to Doug Peterson and said, "Hey, listen, how about we go full pads
There you
instead
go.
of just shells?" That's what you like to see. You like to see your players kind of stepping up and wanting to take that leadership role and kind of, I don't want to say bite the bullet, but self increase the intensity, because when you're in shells, you're a little, you're standing up a little straighter. The intensity is not so much. When you're in full pads, you tend to like, at least maybe you can speak on it from a football standpoint because you played. You get a little bit more serious. You get a little bit more
Yeah.
in the zone.
I
Am
mean,
I right to assume
yeah. I
that?
mean, you got to get if they're trying to recreate the elements and actually, I think this would be the best thing for them to do. Plus, it's going to be a while. It's going to be like 2 weeks before they play. So I mean, just getting the right mindset. Like some players tend to get lackadaisical when they're not in full pads. I mean, it's just some guys play differently. So
And I thought it was interesting too during Doug Peterson's press conference today, how he said they were game planning during this bye week, taking advantage of their opportunity to game plan a little bit more towards the New Orleans Saints, because they had already seen the Carolina Panthers, so they already know their tendencies this year and stuff like that. They've broken that matchup down completely, albeit on a short week, because that was Thursday night football. They said they played the Falcons last year, which is true, but offensively a little bit different of a schemes, because Kyle Shanahan is now in San Francisco, so you're talking about a different offensive coordinator. But they're really taking a hard look at the Saints. You really want to utilize this bye week time appropriately. And being as the New Orleans Saints is the one you haven't played, and the New Orleans Saints are the top seeded team out of those three in the NFC South, wouldn't you agree that this is kind of taking a advantage of a bye week appropriately?
Yeah, I mean, I think this. I mean, this is where you have to get those reps in. If they have to share some reps with Sudfeld,
Oh
you,
God.
no, I mean, a lot of people. The weird thing is, a lot of people have been talking about. Well, actually, Peterson actually hinted in his press conference about in a desperation mode, you know, whatever. But then he fired back to Ian Rappaport after the press conference saying, Nick Foles is my guy, blah, 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 period, end of story. But I think, this is the opportunity to get better, but also I've been hinting at it for the last couple weeks, saying that I really think this offensive minded group, this QB collective, has been storing some plays. They have something under their sleeve. I've been asking for more screenplays, more creativity, more up tempo. Why aren't they using more tempo with Nick Foles? And now there's an article about Peterson going back and looking back at some of the Nick Foles' strengths in Chip Kelly offense. They haven't been showing that, and there's a reason why they haven't been showing that, because they got some trickery up the sleeve. We've been talking about the Ajayi game. When are we going to see the Ajayi game? Well, maybe this is the Ajayi week. Next coming weeks is the Ajayi show, because like, why aren't they threw a couple screens to Ajayi, which he broke for like 20 yards on 2 consecutive weeks. So maybe we see that.
And I thought it was real curious too while I was at the game against the Cowboys that the first thing I noticed as everybody kind of took the field that J Train was in street clothes. And I think when asked today, they talked about injuries and who was inactive during the Dallas game and how they talked about Brandon Graham and something like that. And I believe that somebody asked, well, what does Jay Ajayi got going on? And Doug Peterson kind of slipped up and said, well, he's not dealing with anything, which would allude to your point that they're kind of saving him for the playoffs.
Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right on that. The Sudfeld thing, it's interesting. Every time Doug Peterson answers a question, you hear that long breath, that and he thinks about what he wants to say. And as a coach, as a head coach in the NFL, more specifically in Philadelphia, dealing with the Philadelphia media, you kind of walk a tightrope between being too vague and saying too
yeah,
much. So whatever answer he always gives has to be vague enough where you're not tipping your hand as to what you're doing, but specific enough where it answers the question. So when the question came about, well, is Sudfeld going to take any reps? Can you envision a scenario where maybe, um, Sudfeld enters the game or you make a switch at quarterback? He started talking worst case scenario. He started talking about, what's the terminology that he used? It was something like worst case scenario or in total scramble mode and something like that. I think he realized he answered the question wrong.
yeah. I mean, that's why
Well,
he fired out to Ian Rappaport.
that's why he fired out to Ian Rappaport. There is absolutely no quarterback controversy. This team will ride or die with Nick Foles. It honestly shocks me to see some people on the timeline talking about Sudfeld as if he is a legitimate option at quarterback. That is the most absurd thing I've ever heard in
Well,
my life.
I
There's
mean, the thing is, like, Sudfeld got paid pretty hefty price for uh, to keep him on the roster. He's not getting paid like a regular uh, backup. I mean, backups get paid, or undrafted free agent type. He's getting paid a little bit more. And a lot of us thought that he was just signed just to get, be the playbook for, what was it, Washington that released him?
week one, we
Yeah.
talked about that.
And then Reich was talking about how he performed and turned some heads. Um, I think it's just you see that game last week and you're like, wow, Suffolk actually played fairly well, showed some mobility, but at this point in time, it's the Foles show. Foles to the bowl. We're not going to let we're,
Foles to the bowl.
we're not going to let Sudfeld mess up T-shirt sales.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. Does somebody want to buy my shirt? By the way, this is the Fourth and Jawn shop. I am currently working on it. This is how we do it with Howie Roseman's face. Get it? This is how we do it. Yeah, smart. It's all marketing, man. That's exactly what I do. Speaking of marketing and getting yourself out there, did you happen to catch the first two episodes of Football Fanatic there on USA Network? I believe you played a big role in the intro.
Well,
I saw.
I got
Oh,
two shots in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
You hugging up on another white man. I'm starting to
Hey,
get a little jealous over
hey,
here,
my
man.
friend. Gotta spread the wealth, man.
I wonder if you haven't checked it out. It's a show called Football Fanatic. I know I made a video on it on my YouTube channel, and we've been tweeting about it. But just to reiterate, it's on Monday nights after Monday Night Raw, WWE Monday Night Raw, around 11 o'clock on the USA Network. It's this Scottish guy, Darren McMullen, who grew up an American football fan over in Scotland, but never really picked a team because he had no allegiances. Now that he's moved to the USA, he has the opportunity to travel from stadium to stadium and find him and immerse himself in not only the football culture but the city culture as well, the regional cuisine, the traditions of the fan bases out there. I sincerely hope that they put the first two episodes on purpose because you could tell Atlanta was giving them nothing.
Atlanta was weak sauce.
Atlanta was super weak sauce. Listen, from a TV background and having been on television shows before and sort of like reality shows and seeing the way this has been shot, you can kind of tell that they were desperate for.
Bluffing.
Oh my God, they were stretching everything out.
Yeah. I mean,
It was
if you see their with their when their fans they started interviewing the fans compared to what we did where we were at on our episode was caca.
weak sauce is the appropriate term. And then the second part of it, because they double up every episode, it's
Yeah.
30-minute episode. And so there's two episodes per week. Then they had the Dallas Cowboys. And correct me, now we haven't talked about this, Gail, but correct me if I'm wrong. It struck me as if Darren was very disenfranchised, disinterested by the corporate machine that is the Dallas Cowboys brand.
It was
He
kind
didn't
of
seem like he was feeling it.
well, it seemed like he was acting, using those acting skills, but it was kind of too glammed up. It was like glam squad. Even the girl that introduced him was like, well, like was the ambassador type. She was all fake in the face and
Faking the other parts too.
just fake, just fake.
Just fake.
So I mean, I was a little upset, got a little tight in the chest when I saw him with the Cowboys jersey on.
Yeah, maybe a little queasy. I'm not sure how I felt about that. That kind of. Yeah. I didn't like that too much. But you go from everything from when he first walks into the building to when he's talking to the people in the scouting department, how it's almost like a Matrix style touch screen where every player is like stripped down and has a fingerprint and like it just seemed like way too much. And then I don't know if you caught this, but I was like, this is where the whole thing went tits up, right? So he's doing the tailgate scene, and he runs across Larry Brown or something like that. He comes across an ex-player, and so Darren, being a TV host, he has to ask questions to kind of keep the conversation going. So he's like, Dallas is America's team, and I keep hearing that America's team. Where did that come from? And
nice accent.
you're right. That's a little bit of acting. That's a little skill acting right there.
Yeah.
And the player did not know the appropriate answer. He kind of pivoted the answer to how the Cowboys are a global brand and how they're international and stuff like that. He didn't actually answer the question, which you and I both know it was a term coined by NFL Films. I think back in the 60s, because NFL Films will go to stadium, and no matter where they went, they saw Cowboys fans. So they just did a special on them called Cowboys, America's Team. And then the franchise, Dallas, kind of took it and ran with it. And that's how America's Team was born. But the player, the ex player, did not know that. Interesting, right?
Fraud fan base.
It looked like a complete fraud, everything, dude. So I believe that our episode, don't quote me on this, but our episode airs January 15th. We'll be back to back with somebody. So that means there's 2 more episodes, and then our episode. And I think he's going to be very pleasantly surprised. Or I think everybody's going to be very pleasantly surprised the way not only the Fourth and Jawn crew and the entire tailgate team that parties with us on game day, but he ordered a cheesesteak with Vince Papale.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about a relatable, every man situation. If you're
I
gonna
believe he spoke with Lurie as well.
spoke with Lori, and he got a little coming out of the tunnel lesson from one Brian Dawkins.
Ooh, that'll be
So
dope.
that will be dope. So I think we're gonna blow it absolutely out of the water. But I did just want to touch on that and let the people know that they should be watching. Gail, I can tell you did not miss anything at the Dallas game. It was unbelievably cold. It was the most miserable I have been at an Eagles game from a pure weather standpoint in a while.
Yeah, I felt like shit missing it, dude. Oh, to people that don't know, I had a leak in my apartment, water leak on Christmas Eve. In this is where my Eagles office is, and I had all my stuff here. And I open the door, and there's water pouring, like a flooding over everything. Pictures, like poured paper, like just fuck my whole shit up on New Year's Eve, mind you. I mean, Christmas Eve, mind you. It's a lot of damage, but yeah, I wanted to be there, and even in the cold, I wanted to catch pneumonia. That's what it's
Dude,
about.
no, you didn't. No, you didn't. It was you. First of all, I'm the biggest bitch when it comes to the cold.
Yeah,
Like I'm just not built for that kind of weather. And I was complaining at the Giants game. The Giants game was Hawaii compared to what we were sitting through. It was so like walking from the car where we normally park and tailgate at F1 to Xfinity Live. My face was completely numb by the time I got to Xfinity Live. Like I can't touch that Jackie. Where's the head woman? I can't feel my face. It was absolutely miserable. It was nice to see the Dallas Cowboys season end. And looking back at a lot of predictions preseason,
right.
there was an interesting tweet out, USA Today's pre-season predictions as how all the records and all the divisions would shake out, what actually happened. And it kind of reminded me that, Eagles fans want to get down on the way this team looks right now. When the playoffs start, we see it time and time, year after year, over and over again. We always think we know how the playoffs are going to shake out. There's 6 teams on each side. You know what I mean? And we always think we know what's going to happen, and it never does. And kind of looking at those preseason predictions, it's a little microcosm of what happens in the postseason. It kind of made me feel better because last time we were in studio, I wasn't feeling all that confident about my Philadelphia Eagles, and honestly, Sunday did nothing to change that. New Year's Eve did nothing to change that.
Right.
But as you're alluding to, I think they're sandbagging it a little bit. I think
They got it.
offensively,
They got to be.
yeah. I think both offensively and defensively, perhaps the boys kind of lost their intensity, knowing darn right well first round buys in the bag, first seeds in the bag. They're not playing for a whole lot, which is why they went back to Doug Peterson today and said, "Hey, let's put on the pads and practice outside." I think you'll see that intensity step up. I think you'll see a game plan tailored not only to Nick Foles but the cold weather as
Right.
well.
I mean, think about it. Like what they had the first round bye wrapped up, the number 1 seed. What sense does it make to show some of your cards in a game that means absolutely nothing? it means nothing. The only thing that really, I mean, I guess the fan base and maybe to some of the coaches was seeing some kind of continuity with Nick Foles in the offense, just to see him, just like the first play of the game went to Alshon Jeffrey, like they're like. So I mean, there makes no sense to show your cards in a game like this. So after thinking it over, I think about it a lot.
Yeah.
Every hour of the day. I think they have got something up their sleeve and they just haven't showed it yet. So Eagles Twitter, relax.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Just a little. Just a little bit.
Listen, you guys, the people that are concerned or down on the team or a little upset about the way they've played over the last 2 weeks certainly have a legitimate gripe. We are not going to tell you not to be upset or concerned or kind of worried as this team makes its way into the postseason and starts playing some of the elite teams in the NFC. But I think you're right, Gail. I think when you take a look at Nick Foles, first of all, you have to protect him because, I mean, that's your last ticket to the Super Bowl. Really, he gets hurt, it's over, Johnny. Don't Sudfeld me. Don't anything me. Foles gets hurt, it is over, Johnny. And then you start resting guys like Ajayi because you plan on using a heavy load of Blunt. I think Doug Peterson, despite a couple games where he's kind of outsmarted himself, I'm just getting a notification on my phone right now. Brian Dawkins and Terrell Owens are finalists for the Hall of Fame.
Hey,
how about that?
If he makes it,
we make it.
There you go.
And we can finally start
Put
planning
that
trip.
Put that on a fucking t-shirt.
Put that on another t-shirt. Dude, if he makes it to the Hall of Fame, we were kind of heartbroken last year. We got our balls broken quite a bit by some people on Twitter. But I can't wait to honestly plan that trip. Have you ever been out to the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
No, never been.
No?
Nope.
Oh, dude, that's like
being a diehard fan. I don't know why I haven't been, but
the last time I went with my old college roommate, and
didn't you camped out?
Yeah, we couldn't find a hotel room, so we stayed at. He was a member to a campground of America. I don't know. He was some sort of fucking Boy Scout. So, great guy. I love him to death. But like he set up the tent and everything, and I just couldn't sleep on the ground. I ended up sleeping in the car. But at least there was a place to shower. Yeah, that's not my style.
Yeah.
So I ended up sleeping in the car. But that was the year that Reggie was inducted.
Yeah.
And chances are, like, let's say Terrell and Dawkins get in, which is a good possibility. There is also a very good possibility of the Eagles playing in the Hall of Fame game, which is a bullshit preseason game because the starters, I don't think, even take a snap or they're in for one series. Right. But it is the first appetizer to the NFL season to a fan base in a league that's starving for really any sort of football.
And that also makes for a great 4th and Jawn road trip. Eagles tailgate team and the whole works. We should all. That would be a great road trip.
That would be a great road trip. We'll be on it.
Kind of not in the middle of. It's West Coast, East Coast come together.
It's about an 8-hour drive. I took the drive. It's about an 8-hour drive.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to haul up the trailer, haul up everything, and pack it, head out west a little bit.
That'll be a dope trip.
And speaking of the tailgate team and then the 4th and Jawn tailgate and the inaugural podcast, there is the inaugural tailgate, which should be a complete and utter shit show. Not only for the obvious reason that it's a Saturday 4:00 game, right?
Yeah, Saturday 4:00.
So 4:00.
How are you gonna make it without the Santa suit though?
I'll bundle up.
Okay.
The initial forecasts aren't as bad. It's something like snow in the morning and then turning to rain, and then that rain's supposed to subside mid-30s. Very what we kind of experienced at New York. So I think I think we'll be fine. But not only is it the inaugural 4th and Jawn playoff tailgate, but it is our own Philly Mike, I Bleed Philly. It is his birthday as well. The party's going to be rolling pretty heavy, that tailgate. So if you have the opportunity to stop by, whether you go into Xfinity Live or going into the game, Parking lot F1 is exactly where you can find us. Please come get beer bong baptized. I'm sure you've seen plenty of that on some of our other videos and on Twitter. Come by. It's going to be an amazing atmosphere, an amazing time. It's something that you will not want to miss.
It's life-changing stuff.
It is life changing stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else you would like to add, Gail?
Uh, things that I'm thankful. I'm just, it's the first week of the new year. This is the only time I'm
Okay.
gonna say this. Just
Okay.
thankful for the Fourth and Jawn crew, Mighty Rock, I believe Philly,
All right.
Evan, Bubblegum Ear, Trox, the whole works. All the people that have been showing up to the tailgates, all the people that read stuff on fourthandjawn.com, all the writers, and just all the fans that I've met over the last year. I met so many great people that are, I'm telling you, diehards. I mean, like I've met Eagle fans for all of my life, but for the last year, the last 2 years, I've met like diehards from every walk of life, every corner of the country. We've seen them. We've met them in person. We've met them at the tailgates. We met them at the NFL draft. We met them on road trips. We met them at the link. We met people that are from Philly that we've never met before, who now we know are diehards. But it's just a matter of like a great community, and super thankful for that.
Well, I certainly echo every sentiment that you just said, and I was going to save all my thank yous for this 2017 Philadelphia Eagles season comes to an end. We will certainly whenever that does happen,
February 4th.
whether it's February or a couple weeks from now, who knows? But I was going to. Save my appreciation and thank yous for them. But I certainly echo all those sentiments. And as you were speaking through all that, kind of reflected and remembered how busy of a year it's been. Like everything from the NFL draft to, the training camp get togethers to, the show, the football fanatic show to
I've seen some
to,
things.
yeah, to the trip out to LA, to the trip to Washington, D.C. in the first row, to the trip
Yeah.
to MetLife Stadium, to God being on the 700 level show a whole bunch, and like it is going to be interesting when it is all over for me to actually sit down, write down my thoughts, and like go over bit by bit like the highlights of this football season because
It's been a good year, man.
it's been a busy year, but with being so busy, it you forget a lot of stuff.
Right.
You
And
know what I mean?
with the season, like doing all the things we've been doing,
Sure.
to have a football season this good
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
coincide with the stuff we're doing off the field, you can't write this shit. You just live it week to week. It's been great. It's been great.
And every season certainly brings on a new set of opportunities and a new set of I don't want to say challenges, just opportunities and adventures and stuff like that. So I am as exhausted as I am, and as much as I've forgotten about this season that I have to go revisit, and we will certainly do on that show. I'm anxious to see what happens next year, man. It just keeps getting bigger. Like it just the travel up into there's an off chance that the Eagles play in London next year.
We met some
Holy
we met some
shit!
good folks from London as well who
Yeah,
talking
you know
about
a,
hosting
a Hall of Fame trip out to Canton. Tampa's a
New
possibility.
Orleans.
New Orleans a possibility. We talked about doing a group road trip to Tennessee
L.A. There's a game in L.A. against the Rams
again.
again.
Yep, again. So I mean,
So
who
choose
kn-
wisely, save your money,
Yeah,
start working a part-time job. I can
yeah,
tell you from firsthand, traveling the way we've done this year, like I never would have thought I would do this, but now I'm like, yo, we gotta wait a minute, we gotta make this a thing somehow.
yeah.
You know, it's
So
crazy.
once again, visit the Fourth and John shop, buy some T-shirts because that is going to go directly into the travel fund for next year, if not the beer fund for the playoff tailgate. I guess that's it, right, Gil?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, man. I appreciate you hopping on, and I appreciate all you guys giving this a view. And we will see you live January 9th at Bucks County Baseball Company in Bristol, Pennsylvania. We look forward to meeting some of you out there. Please, if you have the opportunity, you will get to hear E-Rock scream his intro in person. It is much louder in person, and it is much more impressive. So until next time, let's go Birds, and we will see you January 9th.